Quick question. When's the last time you ate duck? Not at a restaurant. Not on some trip to Chinatown. I mean at home. On a random Tuesday the way you'd eat chicken. Probably never. And here's what makes that strange. For the first 3 weeks of life, a baby duck actually grows faster than a baby chick. So on paper, ducks look like the better animal to raise. But in the US, chickens outnumber ducks in yearly production by close to 400 to 1. That's not a gap. That's basically a rounding error. So if ducks have the early advantage, why did chicken win everything? Turns out, efficient doesn't mean what you'd think. And the real answer involves fat, feathers, a vat of molten wax, and a 1940s chicken competition that quietly rewired what's on your plate. Let's get into it. Here's where it gets interesting. For the first 3 weeks, a duckling genuinely outgrows a chick. It grows faster, reaches size quickly, and looks like the stronger investment. That early sprint is real. And that's also where most people's assumptions stop. Faster growth, less time, less feed sounds efficient. Except neither bird is typically sold at 3 weeks old. Commercial birds are raised well beyond that point, and somewhere in the second half of the grow-out, the story changes completely. As a duck moves through the back half of its growth period, its body shifts strategy, putting a lot more of its energy into building fat instead of muscle. And building fat is more energy expensive than building lean muscle, gram for gram. By market weight, a duck needs meaningfully more feed per pound of body weight than a modern broiler chicken does. And that's before we even look at the part you actually eat. Chicken yields a noticeably higher share of breast meat as a percentage of body weight compared to duck. So once you calculate feed spent per pound of meat you'd actually put on a plate, chicken pulls dramatically ahead. This is the twist. The ducks grow faster thing was true. It just only applied to the appetizer. Chicken wins the whole meal. So the answer to question 1 is, ducks can look more efficient in one narrow window, early growth. But measured start to finish, chicken wins by a wide margin. And that answer alone doesn't fully explain a gap that huge. Because even a less efficient animal could still carve out a real market. So something else has to be going on. This is where it stops being about biology and starts being about machines. And honestly, this is the part where the duck's advantage keeps disappearing. The same bird that looked so promising in week 1 now needs a completely different setup just to get the feathers off. Chickens have simple feathers. A spinning machine with soft rubber fingers knocks them right off, fast, cheap, automated. Some US chicken processing lines run well over 100 birds a minute. Ducks are waterfowl. Their feathers are oily and water repellent, with a thick layer of down underneath. Those same rubber finger machines just tear the skin instead of cleaning it. So one common industry solution is this: dip the duck carcass into a tank of molten paraffin wax. Let it harden. Then peel the wax off, and the feathers come out stuck inside it. It's the poultry version of a wax strip. Except it's an entire duck. And that wax doesn't just get thrown away after one use. It has to be melted down, filtered, and reused over and over, which means the plant needs extra tanks, extra cooling stations, and extra floor space just for this one step. Chicken processing never needs any of that. Feathers just fall away and the line keeps moving. That process is far slower and more expensive to run than standard chicken processing. Multiply that extra time, extra equipment, and extra labor across millions of birds a year, and you start to see why duck was never going to scale the same way chicken did. And that raises an obvious question. Who's going to build a billion-dollar automated food empire around an animal that has to be dipped in hot wax one at a time? Nobody did. And that decision echoes through everything that came after. Question 3. So how did chicken end up as the default? Permanently? This is the part almost nobody knows. Between 1948 and 1951, a grocery chain called A&P partnered with the USDA and a group of poultry geneticists to run something called the Chicken of Tomorrow competition, a deliberate effort to breed a broader-breasted, faster-growing, more feed-efficient bird. That competition helped push the industry toward a very specific goal: bigger breasts, less feed, faster growth, and it's still felt in the broiler breeds raised today. Meanwhile, duck farming was actually thriving at the exact same time, mostly on Long Island, New York, with over 100 farms producing millions of birds a year. Then, starting in the 1970s, a few things happened at once. Environmental regulation tightened, and duck farms, which produce a lot of waste, increasingly needed expensive water treatment systems to keep operating. At the same time, Long Island land values were climbing fast. Under that combined pressure, the region's duck industry didn't just shrink. Most of it relocated to the Midwest. So while one bird was being engineered for mass production, the other bird's home industry was getting squeezed from multiple directions at once. Two completely different paths at the same moment in history, and that historical head start became permanent for one more reason: fast food. Think about what a fast food chain actually needs: cheap, uniform, boneless meat that freezes, ships, and fries the same way every time. Chicken breast checks every box. Duck breast typically wholesales for a significant premium over chicken breast. And duck's meat is naturally darker and richer than chicken, because it contains more myoglobin, the protein that carries oxygen in muscle tissue. That's great for flavor, but it's genuinely hard to standardize into something like a nugget or a patty. So duck gets locked out of the highest volume food channel in the country. Far less fast food, far less presence in the cheap freezer aisle, and nothing close to chicken's mass market scale. Even a biologically competitive duck still wouldn't fit the machine America already built. None of this means duck is bad meat, just misunderstood. Skinless duck breast is generally leaner than skinless chicken breast, calorie for calorie. And a large share of the fat people associate with duck comes from the skin and the visible fat layer sitting just underneath it, exactly the part most grocery stores never remove before selling it to you. So duck didn't lose its place on your table because the meat itself was somehow worse. The bigger problem was everything around the meat: the feed math, the wax, the regulation, the fryers. The animal was never really the issue. So, back to the question this whole video started with: are ducks actually more efficient than chickens? In one narrow sense, yes, early on they genuinely are. But measured the way it actually matters, from feed bag to dinner plate, modern broiler chickens win by a wide margin. And even the parts where ducks could compete got boxed out by processing costs, 1970s regulation, and a food system quietly built around one specific bird decades ago. Duck didn't lose because it's a lesser animal. It lost because everything downstream, genetics, machines, regulation, and fast food, happened to point the same direction. If you like finding the hidden logic behind stuff you've never questioned before, subscribe. There's a lot more of this hiding in plain sight. And next time duck shows up on a menu, you won't just see a fancy dinner option. You'll see the exact history of why it never made it to your fridge.